Alright, so in this video, we're going to set up the actual home page for our application. Alright, so before we get into any code, we're going to open up the terminal, run npm, run dev, and we're also going to open up a new terminal instance and open up the PocketBase folder and run /PocketBase. Oh wait, no, /PocketBase serve. And then we can close the terminal and leave those two terminal instances running. So then in the routes folder, no, actually in the lib folder, let's create a new folder called components. And here, let's create a new file called conversations navbar dot svelte. So then we're going to create a script tag with the language tag set to TS and also the context set to module. So we're going to say type component events is equal to curly brace. And we're also going to do two events. Open user nav, which is going to have the parameter of null. And the open create conversation, which is going to be a mouse event and an object that contains the current target, which is going to be an event target and HTML anchor element. So now that that's all done and set. Oh wait, no, let's set the context to module. And then let's create another script below this with the language property set to TS. So in here, we're going to export let auth model is equal to user. So we could do that right now. We could import type user from $lib/types. So then we're going to do a dispatch event function. So we're going to do create event dispatcher. And we're going to import that from Svelte, but at first we got to import it manually. So we got to do create event dispatcher from Svelte. And then we'll call this and we'll give it the generic type of component events. And right here, you see these properties on the current events type. These map to specific events that we could call using the dispatch events. For example, if I were to dispatch event open user nav, then you see it does nothing. It requires no other parameters. But if I were to say open create conversation, you see it's invalid and I have to pass in the actual event. So let's close this. And let's say if block. So if the PB store is valid, so if it's yes. So when we say if the PocketBase store does not have null as its value, we're going to create a nav with the class of hide. And we're also going to set the conditional class of show to at page.url.pathname is equal to slash. So if we're in the home page, we actually show the nav bar. So we're going to do import the page store from the svelte/stores module. Let's create a header element. And here, let's create a div with a class of user information. And we're going to have an onClick event on list. And we're going to set this to dispatch event open user nav. So whenever you click on this user information div, it opens up the user nav. But we'll create the user nav in the next episode. But right now, let's just populate this with div. And this is going to have the class of user image and if block. We're going to say auth model.photo and auth model.photo.length is greater than 6. Oh wait, actually 0 length. So we're going to do an image And the source is going to be at pb.files.getURL authModel.photo. No, actually authModel.photo. So we basically get the URL for the photo right here using this. And the alt is just going to be the authModel.name. So the name of the user. Or else we just put FA user circle and we'll import that component now. Actually, let's fix this. Import this from $app/stores. So let's import the icon. Like, let's do a quick fix. Let's just ignore these accessibility issues. So let's create two spans, one for the user name and one for the user email. So it's gonna have authModel.email, and this is gonna have, instead of the email, is gonna have the actual name of the user. So authModel.name. So below this div with the user information, we're gonna have an anchor tag. We're gonna set the hrefs to /create conversation. I'm gonna say on click. We're gonna do event dispatch event open create conversation, and also we're gonna pass in the event. So inside we're gonna have an icon that says IOMD create, and for the class of this anchor tag we're gonna say is create conversation. So basically, whenever they click this link, we want them to be able to create the conversation. And the reason we do an on click and just not a regular anchor tag behavior is because we actually want create conversation page to pop over the content that we're usually seeing. So then let's import this icon like so. We're gonna import it from IO and just say like this. So now below the header, we're gonna create a section with the class of conversations view. We're gonna do an as if block. We're gonna do an as if else block. And the else, we're gonna say dot no conversations. We're gonna introduce a span that says no conversations yet. So now in the if block, we're gonna have a conditional statement that says at conversation store. So alongside the PB store, we can also import the conversation store. So if we actually have conversations and we have conversation store, wait, let's make this like that. Dot length is greater than 0. We're gonna create a constant, so local constant for this, and this is gonna be the sorted conversations is equal to conversation store dot sort. I'm gonna do a b return new date b dot messages 0 dot created, or b dot created dot get time minus, and we're gonna do the exact same thing but for a. So basically we're gonna sort by dates. So now that we have the sorted conversations, we can get on with the logic. So let's create a s each block. So sorted conversations as conversation. And then we're gonna say another constant. So const created date is equal to conversation dot messages dot length is greater than 0. So let's do ternary. Let's do new date. Conversation dot messages 0 dot created, or a new date for the conversation dot created. So we're going to say if there is a message, we're going to show the date of the last message that they have sent or the date that the conversation was created. So then we're going to create an anchor tag with the class of conversation link. And this is going to link to slash conversation.id. So if they click this link, they're going to open up the conversation. So let's create a div with the class of conversation information. And inside here, let's create a conversation image. And here, let's create another if block, conversation.photo, and conversation.photo.length is greater than 0. So if it is, or first of all, if it's not, we're going to create a class of icon, and it's going to contain the MD group icon. So let's go and import this right now. So it's going to be an MD. So then right here, let's create the image, and the same thing for the user image we're going to do for this image. So let's just say the $pb dot get file URL conversation, and also conversation dot photo. So we get the thumbnail for the conversation and the alternative. So if it doesn't load, we're just going to say the conversation dot name. So now below this div, the conversation image div, let's create another div with the class of conversation text in information, conversation title, and it's going to contain 2 spans, one with the conversation name and the other which is going to contain as if else created date dot to locale date string is equal to new date dot to locale date string, and then we're going to say created date dot to locale date string, and we're just going to pass in an empty array, and we're going to say that the format is going to be the hour is going to be 2-digit, and the minute is also going to be 2-digit. And if the created date is not actually the date of today, so if the day of the created date for the conversation is not today, that means we're gonna have the created date dot to locale date string just regularly. So below here, so below the conversation text information div, we're gonna create a span with the class of conversation message, and it's gonna contain as if else block conversation dot messages dot length is greater than 0. Then we're gonna also do an as if block, as if else, my bad. So if the conversation dot messages 0 dot content type, so if the content type of the message is equal to message, then we just say the conversation, the actual message information of the message dot content. So we just say the text of the content. And if it's an image, because if it's a message or if it's not a message, it has to be an image. So all we're going to say is just one image. So in here, we're going to say no message if the message's array length is 0. So let's save this. And below the anchor tag, let's create a HR. And let's go over to the GitHub. You can find the GitHub in the link in the description. So let's go to source. Let's go to the source folder, lib, components, conversation navbar. And the reason I'm not going through the style one by one is because it's not really important for the actual application. The real importance of the application is seeing how the logic flows from the database to the user to the back end. Let's actually fix this typo right here. These are not supposed to be divs. These are supposed to be span tags. So then right here, I accidentally put the to locale date string. This is going to be actually to locale time. So let's close this file. In the route folder, let's create a new folder, parentheses app. And inside of here, let's create another folder, actually another file called plus layout.server.ts. We're going to export const load is equal to an asynchronous function which takes in the locales, and this satisfies layout server load from /$ types. And remember, if you want to get these autocompletes in your IDE, go to the terminal and run npm run dev while you're coding, because that's going to supply you with the actual automated types by SvelteKit. So we're going to say const auth model is equal to locales.pocketbase dot auth store dot model. And now we're going to say if the auth model does not exist, so if it's null, we're going to redirect to 303/signup. So let's import redirect. So if the auth model is not a user, so if it's not actually a valid user, let's import the validate user function and let's redirect /signup, and let's return auth model, and that's it. Let's close this file. And in the app folder, let's create a new folder called sign out. And in this folder, let's create a new file called plus server.ts. So we're going to export const post is equal, has the type of request handler, and it's going to be an asynchronous function. So now if the locals.pocketbase, no, just normal pocketbase.auth store dot is valid, we're going to return an empty JSON string, an empty JSON object. We're just going to return JSON. So then locals.pocketbase.auth store.clear and throw redirect to slash to of 303 to slash sign up. So let's import the redirect function. So you can see that if we actually don't have a valid user ID or valid user session, we don't actually perform any actions. But if we do, we clear the auth store and then we redirect back to the sign up page. So let's close this file. And then in the app folder, let's create a new folder called parentheses conversations. And let's create a file called plus layout.svelte. So let's create a script tag with the language property set to TS. So now, because in this video we're not going to actually cover the create conversation logic, we're just going to set up the actual button to open the create conversation page, but we're not going to implement any logic right now. So let's just export let data, page data. We're gonna let page state is a type of name string which maps to any, and it's gonna be let show user nav bar equal to false. We're gonna say page state is equal to at $page dot, does import the page store. So like page from $app slash stores. So let's create an asynchronous function called open create conversation. And it's going to be an event that takes in a mouse event. And this event is also going to be having the current target mapped to the event target and HTML anchor element. So if the event.meta key or event.control key, either of these cases, so if the user is clicking down the meta key or the control key, we just return, we don't run logic, we let the anchor tag do its own thing and run its behavior. So if they're not pressing these clicks, these buttons, these keys, we're going to prevent default. I'm also going to get the href. href is equal to event.current target. And then we're going to do const result is equal to await preload data. href. You see we don't actually get auto import. Let's import preload data from $app slash navigation. So now if the result.type is equal to loaded and result.status is equal to 200, we push state for the, and we give it the href. We say show create conversation is equal to true, and then create conversation data is equal to result.data. Wait, let's set it like this, and let's import the push state function from here. Let's import type page data from $types. So now if we are redirected, let's go to href. Let's import the goTo function from the app navigation module. So now let's attach some events to the Svelte document file, Svelte document component. So on key down. So event. So if page state dot show create conversation, and if event dot key is equal to escape event dot prevent default, and also history dot back. So basically, if they press the escape key while we're showing the create conversation mode out, we're gonna go prevent default, so it's not gonna close the browser, and we're gonna go back on the history, closing the actual mode out. So let's create a main. So let me say conversations navbar. Then we pass in the auth model. Auth model is equal to user store or data.auth model. So let's import import user store from $lib /PocketBase. So then let's also do on open create conversation detail so we're going to say so we're going to get the detail, we're going to open create conversation with the detail. Oh, it's because I didn't import. So I'm just going to say on close we're going to set the show user navbar to false. So let's also create a key block, and it'll update every time the page .url .path name updates. So /key. So whenever the path name updates, we're gonna set a section .hide, and we're also gonna set a conditional statement class show. So we're gonna say at $page.url.path name does not equal to /, and we're gonna do in fade duration 150. Let's import the fade function, and let's set this just the normal path name, and inside this section set it to slot. So let's create a as if block. So if page state dot show create conversation, so if it's true, let's create a section dot modal. So inside of this section, I'm gonna say on click. I'm gonna do history dot back. I'm also gonna do a transition of fade duration 100. So inside of this section, we're gonna include the create conversation page. We're gonna set the data to page state dot create conversation data. We're gonna say is modal is equal to true, and on close history dot back. So let's create this create conversation page. Let's go here to the app folder and let's create a new folder titled create conversation. And let's create a new file in here called plus page.svelte. So in here, let's just have a script lang set to ts. So export let is modal is equal to false. So this is gonna come from dot slash create conversation / page.svelte. No, wait, this is gonna come like this. And then we're gonna just say export let data page data. So then you can see we have some accessibility issues, but we're just gonna ignore them for now. So let's close this file. And let's go over to the GitHub. Go to the routes folder, the app folder, conversations, layout.svelte. And here, let's copy this. Actually fix some bugs that I left inside the code. So instead of it just being inside the modal, we actually need to create a div that's going to be modal content. And we do on click, stop propagation, and we contain the create conversation page inside of this div. And the other error is here we don't say that it's false, we say that it's true. And here instead of on close is going to be on open user nav. I believe it is. You can go here and you can see open user nav. And let's also fix this typo right here. This is conversation, not conversation. And let's go over to the conversations folder and let's create a new file called pluspage.svelte. And here is going to be a relatively simple file, which is just going to specify the title of the actual document. So svelte head, the title is going to be home. And we're going to create a div that contains a span that says no conversation selected. So then let's go to the pluspage.svelte file in the GitHub and let's copy these styles. And then let's open up the local server. So you see if we open this and we go here, we have the backdrop with the modal. And you see, we have our email, our name, our email, our profile picture, because since we don't have a profile picture, it doesn't show up. It just shows up as an empty image for the default user. But you see we actually have the content. And if we size the screen down to about 700 pixels, you see that it covers the whole screen. And this is meant to be like a full screen cover more than anything. So you can see, we could close and we can open it. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and if you have any comments, please leave them down in the comment section down below.